whether teacher is required to teach 3 subjects in a semester or not. Right, we have examined several parameters, and we are also conducting empirical research, online empirical research on academic integrity. Academic integrity regarding publication of law journal. Impact of conflict of interest on publication of law journals, like editors publishing their papers in the same journal, right? Then advisory board members publishing their papers in the same journal. So we are conducting that online research. You can also participate in that discussion, right? So friends, no drafting research proposal, because they need to research, right? So you need to understand quality research, right? This is meant for teachers actually, how to draft research proposal. And for that purpose, you are expected to know various parameters, review literature, research question, hypothesis, objectives, research design, right? So I am going to discuss, because you are LLM students, right? You are expected to know basics regulating quality of a legal research. So we are going to discuss quality research. What is quality research? What are the important parameters which are important for quality research, quality legal research? And there are certain misconceptions regarding, yeah.
So isn't this important legal research culture?
Yes, yeah. Fine. So friends, let us have some discussion. Number 1, what is the research? Number 2, why research? And number 3, how research? Right? So number 1 is, you must understand the nature, scope and color of research. Right? Number 2, why research is conducted? Do you think research is conducted only for the purpose of doing PhD, or you conduct some research for dissertation? Right? So research is a very different context altogether. Right? It is very subjective, but when it comes to legal research, quality legal research, it has specific requirements. So we are going to discuss specific requirements for conducting quality legal research, right? Research does not involve compilation of data, summarization of data, collection of data. Of course, collection of data is very small component of conducting research, right? So I am going to discuss number 1, research, systematic. Number 2, research is scientific. That is, I think, if you know these 2 parameters, then I think there won't be any problem in formulating your research hypothesis, research question, objective or research design. Fine. Have you studied research methodology? You have some understanding of research methodology, right? If I ask you, what is the starting point of research, a quality research? What is the originating point of any quality research, maybe legal research? What is starting point? See, in all subjects, you have starting point, originating point. Like in case of labor law, you have contract of employment. In case of administrative law, it deals with administrative action. If action is covered under administrative action, then administrative law will be applicable. Right? In case of family law, right? So there is a starting point in all the laws. Right? So number 1 is, what is the originating point? If I ask you, what is the starting point of research? Anyone? Starting point. Yeah? Research problem. Okay, good. Number 2, research objective. Fine. Literature review is very, very good. Why literature review? Why literature review? Or we call it review of literature. Right? A review of literature is the most important component of any research. The second most important component is research design. Research design deals with execution of that research. Right? How to practice research methodology is examined by research design. Fine? How to execute the systematic approach for conducting a research assignment, writing research paper, drafting research proposal, or maybe drafting any assignment, maybe like your dissertation or PhD thesis, according to your research problem. Is it so? Wait. I'll come back to you. Yeah. Research problem. Why do you think the research problem is the starting point of any research assignment?
When there is a problem or we have identified it, then
Okay. Fine, good. Let us see, somebody was referring to objectives. The starting point of research is the research objectives. Yeah. What is the rationale? What is the logic?
I think if we understand what we want at the end, it will help us to do the research and what we want.
Okay.
So what is the objective, why we are actually doing the research,
Uh-huh.
then it helps us to do the starting.
Okay, fine, fine, appreciate that. Right, let us see. Efficacy of artificial intelligence in conducting legal research, right? So can you conduct any research without knowing artificial intelligence, without knowing dimensions of legal research? Right? So number one is you must know the literature. You can't formulate research question without knowing the subject matter. So it starts from review of literature. You examine the literature, thereafter you come out with some kind of gaps, right? Gaps with respect to specific subject matter. With respect to research, the methodology gap, there are so many, I think, issues which are related to review literature. Methodological gap, the conceptual clarity, or maybe practice with respect to the subject matter. Law in theory is different from law in practice. So literature review deals with so many dimensions, not confined to only methodological gap, right? So number one, review literature. You have to really examine the literature available, like you want to conduct artificial intelligence and its efficacy on quality of legal education, right? So you must know what is artificial intelligence. You must know the contours of legal education or legal research. Thereafter, you formulate that that hypothesis, right, to examine various parameters. So this is very important that you must understand the starting point of review literature, right? Review literature, how data is required to be collected. We'll have some discussion on internet data because the data is very important, right? If your literature, you have examined some literature which is not authentic, inaccurate, incorrect literature. If you do research on the basis of incorrect literature, right, or then unverified literature, the literature that is not accurate, and I am going to illustrate it with the help of real life illustrations. Fine. So number one, garbage in, garbage out theory. That is, so therefore, review literature based on authentic information, accurate information, original information becomes very important, right? So thereafter, you come out with gaps, formulate research problems, research questions, hypothesis, and then objectives, research design, and so on. We'll discuss that scheme. What can be considered a model scheme for the purpose of conducting a good quality research, right? Now fine. Now see, teaching, I start with this. This is, I think, that identity. Everybody is a teacher. Designation is not important, whether Mann is a professor or teacher, etc., right? I want that people should recognize me as a teacher, as a stakeholder. That is very important. That is only, I think, that respect. Fine, students are also teacher. A teacher is always a student, right? The moment a teacher ceases to be a student, he is not a teacher. That is my understanding of teaching assignment, friends, right? So let us start with the particular discussion, and I am going to discuss some important parameters of quality legal research, right, based on my experience. Fine, I am not going to discuss various parameters, the definition, the concept, etc. I hope you understand basic concepts regarding research methodology. Fine, okay, now, yeah, just, and how this is recognized by Supreme Court. Fine, the pilot of legal education, etc. And this is very important for the purpose of integrity. And refer to the judgments and the subject matter in order to recognize integrity of teachers. And the teacher is, or a student is perfect, right, from the perspective of competency as well as honesty. So we require committed and devoted professional, effectively, honestly, without manufacturing data, without, right, and we try to ignore that literature that goes against our hypothesis. This is the way I think we should avoid the manipulation, right? So this is very important. That of course there is a dearth of good professional, competent professional, right? So I feel that a professional is recognized because of his contribution, not because of its designation, right? So that is my humble submission, that yes, recognize integrity and honesty in all assignments. So that is the starting point. If you want to do good research, quality research, so practice integrity, honesty. Don't manufacture data. Don't manipulate data for the purpose of that good research, right? So that is, I think, very important message which should be communicated to all stakeholders. Fine. And friends, I start with three fundamentals. Three fundamentals are also important for the purpose of, rather four fundamentals for the purpose of quality research. Right? Number one, no shortcut to success. It is always hard work. When you take care of a dissertation or you participate or appear in any examination, hard work that you must know in a subject matter. You must know how to really present that subject matter. Hard work is the key to grow, to develop as a competent professional. Number one, no shortcut. Right? We are very fond of CCP, you know. What is CCP? Cut, copy, paste. Literature is available. You simply copy it from that data bank, use it. But now you have terminating. You have so many softwares taking care of that academic dishonesty. Right? So academic dishonesty is not recognized anywhere. Fine. So this for number one, don't believe in shortcuts. So don't believe in shortcuts for conducting any research. Right? Number two, use your own discretion. Use your discretion to decide whether there is a scope of this particular research question. Right? Whether there is a demand for this particular research question or somebody else has done some research on that. So you must be in a position to decide to take a call whether there is a scope of research or not. If everything is well settled, I come across some PhD research theses, right? And where I saw some research questions, the definition, what is the definition of this concept, child labor? What is the definition of this dowry death? Right? What is the definition of artificial intelligence? Whether these can be considered research questions? Certainly not. You don't include definition because definition itself is a part of review literature that you are expected to examine literature. You are expected to really analyze that. So knowing the literature is a part of research. But legal research or quality research is very different. Right? Because it requires value addition. Quality research requires value addition to the existing pool of knowledge. Where you are expected to contribute to the existing pool. Not just summarizing, describing or repeating the literature. So when I refer to quality legal research, I mean value addition. Right? I mean expansion of existing pool of knowledge. That is my understanding of quality research. Your research must generate new policy, new knowledge. Otherwise you repeat the judgment, A judgment, B judgment, this provision, that provision, and that is a real problem. Fine. So that is very important that you generate. Like if you have published some paper and paper has led to some policy changes, a great research. The paper has led to generation of new policy or modification of existing policy. That is the real contribution which is expected from all the researchers, not just compiling, referring to this author or that author. That is the real challenge. Right? So that is, I think, very important. See, contribution is okay, then learning is a continuous process. Right? Fine. So first is, there is no shortcut to success. It is always a hard work. Number two, use your discretion. Number three, you can never progress by pulling down somebody. You can never progress at the cost of somebody. That is so easy to understand in case of research. Right? Don't blame others for your failure, for your inaction, right, or for your pitfalls. You try to understand your limitations. If you are not in a position to understand the parameters of review literature, discuss it with the teacher. But before that, you are expected to know substantially about the subject matter. Because we don't support the idea of that spoon feeding, right? Duty of the teacher is to teach how to fish, not to provide the fish. That is my understanding of empowering students. Fine? So my duty is to empower you in case you have any doubt. And don't expect, I think, the other stakeholders to do review literature for you. So right, so that try to understand your limitations. See, no one is perfect. Yes, one is also not perfect. A or B, C, D, not perfect. Right? But learning is very important. Fine? So we require, I think, quality research for that purpose, and that is very important. Competency and commitment. Right? So let us talk about the quality research next, please. Okay. And I will explain it with the help of next please. I think we discussed that. Fine, just let us see that video. I want to show understanding, number one, nature of research. Number two, significance of research. Right? Number three, the interface between law and social science, because we have that confusion. Right? We are under the impression that law is very different from social science. Let us see this video. Right? The video is related to one particular research. Right? Let me see how far you are in a position to really evaluate and find out nature of research. Because nature of research is very important in case of hypothesis. Nature of research will decide nature of hypothesis, the nature of research question, nature of objective, nature of research design. So everything is interrelated, right? You can't examine hypothesis in isolation without relating it to review literature, without relating it to research question and objectives. Fine. Let me see this video, 2 minutes video, right? Mining and pollution and several issues. And the video deals with multidisciplinary approach, because law is required to have multidisciplinary approach, not confined to only section, provision, etc., etc. Let me see this. Right click.
Doing an analysis of the pre-existing knowledge on a particular subject.
Doing analysis. Okay, fine. Anybody else?
Finding.
And then thereafter he or she examines their act or maybe some judgments. Fine. Number one. There is another student. The student examines their act, some judgments, some articles. There is a third student. The students examine. In case of practice, like I teach labor law, right? And I can't teach labor law without practicing labor law. So I regularly visit labor tribunals for that purpose. I regularly interact with labor commissioners, labor inspectors to know the real problems, and I also interact with trade union leaders to know real character of labor law, right? And see, there is a provision in ID Act, Industrial Disputes Act 1947. You must have studied that during the course of your UG classes. Fine. Section 36, subsection 4, where advocates cannot appear before labor tribunal matter, right? Matter of routine. Permission is required from opposite party, right? There is a requirement of approval from presiding officer. This is a theory, but I have come across several instances. It is a matter of routine where advocates appear before labor tribunal without any permission, without any requirement. Number two, what happens in case of again conciliation officer in case of ID Act? During conciliation proceedings, no advocate can appear before conciliation officer or before board of conciliation. Total ban. But when I visited several places, matter of routine, advocates were appearing before that the conciliation officer, right, in uniform. So if that is the case, how are we going to really examine that the clarity, the understanding of see labor law, right? So therefore you must really understand what the real character of law. If you know practical dimensions, like we always talk about rule of law. But you see that how many people have been appointed. I am referring to one judgment. The recent judgment, I think 2025. We always talk about rule of law, right? You know what is rule of law? Rule of law, Dicey's concept. Rule of law means law is supreme, everybody is bound by the law, nobody is above the law, right to equality, etc., etc. Fine? And rule of law deals with conflict of interest. That the person having some interest stands disqualified to adjudicate some dispute. And I am referring to the judgment of 2025. See what happened in that case. The judgment is related to state of MP, right? Some appointments of Gram Panchayat institution were made, right? And in that case, see the chairperson and the member, appointed family members, relatives. The list is also provided by the judgment. 10 family members and relatives were appointed. But the member appointed his son and daughter-in-law. This was questioned before Supreme Court. Right? It happened in 1998 and the matter was decided by Supreme Court in 2025. Right? So what is required in case of public appointment? Fairness. Fairness is important in case of public appointment. What is happening? Right? So in that case, what was required? See, these members were required to recuse themselves. They did not. They participated in the appointment process. They approved appointment of the relatives. But the Supreme Court, what the decision? It has been more than 25 years. So many people have retired. So many people have superannuated. Right? So therefore, let them continue. Can you expect from Supreme Court to do that? Right? It has been more than 25 years. Right? So because of the delay in the process, can you legalize illegalities? So this is the way you are supposed to examine judgment. And another judgment I tell you, the judgment is regarding that Indian Bar Association versus D.K. Gandhi. You know something about the judgment? A landmark judgment. D.K. Gandhi, 2024 judgment, Bila Trivedi and Pankaj Mittal. Landmark judgment. Advocates are not covered under the Consumer Protection Act. That is the judgment all about. Advocates are not covered under Consumer Protection Act. But the question that is, see that argument raised by the Supreme Court, that advocates are covered under contract of personal service. Because contract of personal service is exempted from Consumer Protection Law. So do you think advocates are the employees of clients? That is the logic. If you go with Supreme Court judgment, do you think advocates are the employees of clients? Do you think one advocate can be controlled by 200 employees? 200 employers, 200 clients? Because dual employment is not allowed in India. Right? So that is the understanding of, I think, the judgments. Advocates are not engaged under contract of service, but contract for service. That is the clarity. If you know the subject matter, we have written some article on that. Fine. So this is the way you are required to know. Systematic, like a doctor is expected to examine everything. Right? Research is deep sea fishing. ऊपर तैर के नहीं आना है. अंदर गोता लगा के मोती तभी मिलेगा. Otherwise, it's very difficult to do that research. So research means deep sea fishing, not superficial fishing like examine the literature. Fine. Just examine some section, some judgment, some article. Everything is done. That is not accurate. If that is the case, you will have limited understanding, right? So this is the way you are required to examine the research in a systematic manner. Fine. So perception, I think we have already discussed that. So therefore, research means quality research. Garbage in, garbage out theory. I hope you remember that. Garbage in, garbage out. This is again related to scientific research. If the research is based on inaccurate data, false data, incomplete data, you are going to come out with some illogical conclusion, may not be accepted by the stakeholders, right? So this is, I think, very important in case of good research, quality research. Fine. So research means that not just collection of information. And number two, friends, research requires a sound understanding of subject matter. Very good understanding of subject matter with integrated approach. Like if you want to conduct some research on suggest any topic. Let me see some topic. Can you suggest any topic for conducting some good research? Contemporary area, not that women and child, etc., human rights. That time we have new dimensions of human rights in 21st century. Yeah? Mental rape, okay, fine. If you want to conduct some research on a particular topic, then what the relevant literature which is supposed to be examined by you? Marital rape, right? Human rights dimensions of marital rape. Fine. What is expected in that case? The topic is allotted to you. How are you going to conduct some research on that? Criminal law. Fine. Number two, family law. Number 3, constitutional paradigms. Number 4, social. See, deals with social problem, right? The status of women. You are going to examine international dimensions also, right? So you must be in a position to deal with the problem from all the dimensions: legal, social, constitutional. It may be related to economical dimensions also, if you want to relate it to sociological dimension, right? So number 1, don't confine it to that only legal section provision, because we are very fond of referring to this section, that judgment, this judgment. That is, I think, is very narrow approach to any particular topic, right? So this is, I think, integrated understanding is very important, right? And for that purpose, subject matter analysis. Biased approach, we do it. What is the hallmark of good research, quality research? Objectivity is the hallmark of good research, quality research. In order to rule out subjectivity, right, what is important? Your approach is important, that you don't become a party to that research, right? I've seen most of the researchers referring to this, making some statement, I don't agree with this or that. So let the data speak for itself. The data collected by the researcher should make a reference, should draw some conclusion. Let the data collected by the researcher should draw some logical conclusion, right? So number 1, relevant facts, relevant law, relevant conclusion or logical conclusion. This is, I think, very important in case of that objectivity component of research. If you believe in subjectivity, you will try to do any damn thing to really reach to some kind of conclusion which is acceptable by your hypothesis. So that is not accepted. Objectivity. The research must speak for its final conclusion, right? We refer to that res ipsa loquitur, right? Remember res ipsa loquitur? What is that? Anybody? Yeah, things speak for itself. The doctrine which is related to negligence, right? Fine. Okay, now. Yeah, let us see next, please. Because we don't. Fine. Now, research is systematic. I will explain to you. See, there is a structure provided to you. Structure means review literature, then research problem including research question, then you have hypothesis, objectives, research design, etc., etc. Fine. Research design is very important. Research design is the second most important component of research methodology. It must include number 1, universe, right? Subject matter universe, territorial universe, period universe. That must be very specific. Subject matter universe must include operational concept. Child? Who is a child? Who is a child? Child means below the age of 18 years. I am talking about context of that. So you have to have concept. Operational concept shall be part of your design. Subject matter universe, right? So thereafter research method, right? The research method may be doctoral, non-doctoral, qualitative, quantitative as the case may be, right? Thereafter that approach adopted by you. So this research design is very important in case of systematic approach, right? So then thereafter you come out with findings and recommendation. But I have seen in some of the cases you come out with conclusion and recommendation. Conclusion and findings and conclusion, right? You don't discuss recommendations. We see your research question is regarding apple, but you come out with some kind of findings which are related to mango. What happens in case of law commission report on death penalty? Have you examined that? See, the main question before that law commission was whether death penalty can be abolished or not abolished in India. See the conclusion. Since death penalty has been abolished by 143 countries, therefore India should also abolish it. Can it be accepted as a kind of logical conclusion? Right? Number 1. See, the hypothesis was regarding abolition of death penalty. But you will see the recommendations made by law commission. They should create some victim fund, etc., etc., etc. What is the relevance of that the finding to the main issue, abolition of death penalty, right? So this is not expected in case of good research. If your research is related to A, your finding must be related to A, recommendation must be related to A. You must relate everything which is directly towards A. You can't include, should not include B or C or irrelevant material. That is because research is very, very systematic, right? So this is, I think, very important in case of systematic research. Now, see that component, right? So this is very systematic because you can't deviate. Now there are some issues regarding that format. Somebody was under the impression that objectives is the starting point. Somebody referred to research problem. Somebody referred to that the second component, review literature, right? So you have a particular the scheme of presentation. Presentation, the scheme is very, very systematic, right? And very scientific also. You don't have any discretion to modify that scheme, to manipulate that scheme, right? So you can't really start with hypothesis, then review literature, then research question, and then thereafter, etc., etc. I think you have to have that systematic approach in order to examine the particular topic or subject matter, right? You can't deviate from that I think the component, right? This is systematic. You don't have any discretion, but we are under the impression that whatever is dictated by the professor is the final one. No. But you have to, now see, if I ask you, understanding, whether statute or judgment delivered by High Court can be considered primary data or secondary data? Let me see your understanding. Clarity, this is regarding clarity, conceptual clarity, whether a statute, RTI Act, or some judgment delivered by Supreme Court or High Court, District Court or Tribunal can be considered the primary data for the purpose of your research, or secondary research, or secondary data. Let me see. What is the nature of the data? Primary data includes statute, okay. Judgment? Judgment is a primary data or secondary data? Yeah? Primary data, good. What about some judgment delivered by district court? It means we don't have a sound understanding of principles regulating the classification of data. Isn't it? It means we don't understand the distinction between primary data and secondary data. I know. It is very easy to understand that distinction between qualitative and quantitative data. Easy to understand qualitative research approach and quantitative research approach. Fine. So my analysis is based on scientific analysis. We have examined several books, and if you just Google it on Google, just find out the distinction between primary data and secondary data. The problem has arisen because of some parameters. I'll explain that. Yeah, let us see. Just Google on Google. Difference between primary data and secondary data. Then you apply the same principle to your Bayer Act or maybe judgment, etc., etc. Let me see. Distinction between primary data and secondary data. And don't confine it to only one particular parameter, because internet data is highly unreliable. I expect you to examine some authentic source. Let me see somebody making an attempt to really understand the dimensions or paradigms of primary data and secondary data, or Bayer Act, or maybe primary statute or secondary statute. Draw some conclusion whether statute is a primary data or secondary data for the purpose of your research. Okay, fine. Number one, in case of primary data, data is created. How data is created? You know the tools and techniques of data creation. Data is collected from sources, respondents. So you have several techniques: questionnaire, interview method, self-administered questionnaire, email, etc., etc. In case of primary data, data is created. Fine. Number two, Primary data is first hand data created by the researcher, right? Number two, secondary data means use of data. The data that has been created by somebody else has been used by the researcher. This is secondary data. 7 years is banned, para 98, etc. etc. You quote those judgments. Fine. If that is the case, you decided. The real problem is we don't integrate law and social science. We feel that law is very different, social science is very different. Because of that, this misconception has been created. So much of literature is available. Now, if you have better answer, better logic, I accept that. This is my logic based on scientific classification. Primary data, creation. Secondary data, use. Primary data, first-hand data. Secondary data, second-hand data. Right? It happens because we don't integrate social science. We feel law is very different from social science. I tell you, why do you require law? See, if we are under the impression that social science is very different from law, sorry to say, incorrect approach. Why do you require law? To regulate human behavior, right? If everybody is following some norms, you don't require law. And I tell you, all the laws have emerged because of dilution in ethical values. You can refer to labor law, contract law. You know contract law? If you see historical perspective of contract law, I am talking about ancient times. People used to respect words. Pran jai par vachan na jai. Remember that? Are you aware of that? People used to respect words like anything. Thereafter, because it is very difficult to prove oral agreements, right? So thereafter, people started entering, because of failure of recognition of oral agreements, people started entering into written agreement, because it's very easy to prove written agreement, right? Thereafter, written agreements, some specific written agreements are required to register for enforceability. But now thereafter also, we have created so many commercial courts to deal with commercial matters. So many disputes are pending. People are contesting terms and conditions of the employer, of that agreement or the contract. You relate it to labor law. It's like commodities in open market, exploited like anything. Thereafter, people started questioning that. Then, first, owner and slave, that relationship was recognized. Thereafter, master and servant relationship. Thereafter, employee-employer relationship. Thereafter, you have partners, right? So, if you examine dowry law, any law, right? So, see, law is required. Law is a tool of control. It is a tool of social control. If everything is perfectly right, we don't require any law. If society behaves in orderly manner, you don't require any law, right? So you require law to control society. And John Austin, his approach, John Austin, that law is a command of sovereign. Number two, people will not follow law unless there is sanction. This is very important. So sanction means control. So therefore, can you examine the provision in isolation? Right? So law deals with, number one, social dimensions. It deals with economical dimensions. It deals with political dimensions. It deals with legal dimensions. Right? Yeah. Good problem. Okay. Right? So if that's the case, if you are going to really examine law in isolation, my dear friends, you have very narrow approach. So whenever you examine any subject matter, kindly look into economical dimensions also. Competition law is based on economical dimensions. Insolvency law is based on economical dimensions. Payment of wages, payment of bonus, salary, etc., etc. All these laws are based on economical dimensions. Equal remuneration for male and female, isn't it? So that is the way you are expected to examine, I think, all the dimensions. So therefore, law is an integral part of social science. Right? This is my understanding. If you have better argument, I always appreciate that. Because I am a student of law, I learn from all the discussions, and that is a continuous process. So therefore, it is very systematic. Research is very, very systematic in all the cases. So primary data, secondary data, you can do that research, right, and find out read more and more regarding that primary data, secondary data, the point, right? And there was some confusion regarding the starting point, right? Whether review literature, research question, etc., etc. So review literature is always the starting point because you can't do research without knowing the subject matter. And this review literature is a continuous process. It does not end with a particular assignment, right? It continues till conclusion of that research report. Fine. In case there is a latest development, you are going to include that latest development in that. Yeah, fine. Right. So no deviation from the standard because it is very, very systematic. Fine. Yeah. Then see, again I am repeating some important parameters. Number one, research means value addition. Research means expanding horizons of academic literature. Right? Research does not mean storytelling, that you tell stories. No compilation of data, no summarization of data. There must be some elements of analysis. That is my understanding of research component. So the moment you write some good research paper, I tell you, you are likely to be quoted. You are likely to be, I think, referred. Several judgments have referred various articles. Why? Why those articles have been referred, you know? Because of quality, because of innovative idea, because of that good quality research. Otherwise, you must have seen so many articles have been written on that particular topic. But that specific article has been quoted. We have written some research paper on legal aid services, or some articles have been quoted by several agencies because quality research. So therefore, it is very important that you come out with some innovative idea. So that is very, very systematic approach is important, right? Yeah, value addition is important. Introspection, of course, that is very important, right? Next, please. Oh yeah, I think we just wait. The previous one, right? Can we see the video? Possible? Because I want to just show you. See, we learn so many things by doing the things, right? This video will tell you how research can be fine. So friends, right? Yeah, let us see the next. I think we have that time constraint. We have to really compare, right? So number 2 is, so any problem regarding systematic component? Research is always systematic. You must be very clear about that. Now, number 2 component is scientific, right? Scientific. What do you mean by the term scientific? See, in science, you know, H2SO4 will be H2SO4, sulfuric acid. H2O will be H2O. You go to any country. You know what is H2O? Water. You go to Japan, Korea, England, any country. It will be H2O. Because, you know, science, you can replicate. Right? It has scientific justification. But in case of social science, it is very difficult. Corruption may be a serious concern in case of India, may not be serious concern in case of Germany, Sweden, Finland, Norway. Dowry may be a problem in case of Haryana, UP, and then other places. May not be a serious problem in case of Kerala, or maybe Gujarat, or West Bengal. Right? So it's a very contextual, and that social science research is based on perception. That is the problem. Right? So how to really rule out that subjectivity, too much of subjectivity in case of social science research? You have to follow certain parameters. Right? So for that purpose, you have to be very objective in approach. Right? So number 1, conflict of interest. Number 2, adopt that representative sample, stratified sampling method in order to rule out any kind of subjectivity. That is very important in case of social science research, because social science, you know, perception. How to really deal with the perception, and I will show you the real problem of that perception. I have conducted some empirical research on academic integrity in publication of law journal. I will show you the data. Its authenticity. Sometimes that empirical research data is misleading. So therefore, you must know your subject, how to really correct that. Fine? Yeah, see that, research, deep sea fishing, etc. We have already discussed that. Yeah. So when you conducted research, friends, you must know insider's perspective. Very, very important. You must know insider's perspective. Like, you must have seen so many people conducting empirical research regarding travels. They stayed with travels, right? They become part of the system, right? So you have to have that insider's perspective, not outsider's perspective. In case you know insider's perspective and outsider's perspective, then you are in a better position to have that accurate data, authentic data. That is, I think, very important component of yeah. I will refer to that relevant evidence also. So therefore, participatory observations are important. You participate, you know the function aspect of the subject matter, right? Now coming back to that the specific component of that authenticity or authenticity and scientific justification. Yeah. Anyone? What is your understanding of scientific component of research? Scientific component of research.
So basically it deals with the experimentation and we have, like, after doing some experiment, there is certain observation we infer from that particular like activity that we have undertaken, and based on that we drew conclusions which are analytical.
Very good. Anybody else? Scientific. Research must be scientific. This is related to garbage in, garbage out here. So easy to understand. Means your research must be based on authentic data, authentic information, verifiable information, accurate information, latest information. If you don't rely on that information, right, you come out with some different argument, who is going to accept that argument? Because people are well aware of the latest information. Right? So garbage in, garbage out. Therefore, whenever you make some argument, make some finding, that must be based on some data. You should not be a kind of statement raised by you, made by you. Right? You should not be a subjective statement. Right? If I make the statement that a statute is not a primary data, I already explained it to you. The classification between primary data and secondary data, the distinction. So there is a justification. The moment you make some statement that legal and services are of low quality, then you must provide the details of skills, right? Drafting skills, then articulation skills, then maybe commitment, availability of advocates before court. So you must identify some specific parameters to really evaluate, make that statement, right? Now see, yeah, next let me see, I'll just explain it with the help of some, yeah. So number 2 is scientific, and let me examine internet data. And friends, yeah, next, I tell you, don't trust internet data. Internet data is highly unreliable. Fine. You have to verify it from original source, authentic source, official source. Right? See, if you are required to examine their judgment, would you go by the footnote referred by somebody else, or would you examine the complete judgment from original judgment? What is required to be examined? You are expected to examine the judgment from original judgment, not the footnote quoted by somebody. Right? Number 1, you are required to examine that original report published by Law Commission of India or any other committee. Don't refer to the footnote or the provision. If something is related to some section, refer to the provision, quote the provision, examine the provision. Right? So this is, I think, very important from that perspective that you have accurate data, relevant data, fine, and authentic data. Fine, I think we have already discussed that component, fine. Yeah, empirical research is also done. Now in case of that scientific UGC regulations, there are several judgments where Supreme Court has quoted UGC regulations as UGC guidelines. Number 1. Number 2. Number 2 is regarding some judgments. L. Kumar versus University of India. You must have studied that Bangalore water supply judgment. Right? We'll discuss that judgment also. Right? What about this? The particular issue? Do you think UGC guidelines can be quoted? UGC regulations can be quoted as UGC guidelines? What is the status of UGC regulations? Guidelines or otherwise? There's so much of literature available. You just Google it on Google. Supreme Court has quoted UGC regulations as UGC guidelines several times. So what is the status of UGC regulations? UGC regulations are not guidelines. Guidelines are not binding. Regulations are binding. Rules are binding. Fine. Can you interchangeably use guidelines and regulations? Incorrect. That is wrong. If you are going to replace judicial regulations with guidelines, then there is a problem of understanding. So don't be misled by that analysis. Right? That is a real problem. Now, number 2. You know Bangalore water supply? Right? Bangalore water supply versus A. Rajappa, 1978 judgment of Supreme Court, 7 judges bench, Krishna Iyer. The judgment has laid down 2 tests. Number 1, triple test. Number 2, domain in nature test. And I have seen so much of literature that is available in the public domain, where that most of the authors have referred to Krishna Iyer. Justice V.S. Krishna Iyer has created the triple test. Right? Do you think that triple test was created only in that judgment? Yeah? That triple test was discussed in one particular judgment delivered by Australian High Court, Federated School Teachers Association 1929. Again referred by Supreme Court in 1960. The judgment of that Municipal Corporation of Nagpur 1960. Then again Subdivision Hospital 1960. It was discussed by Justice P.V. Gajendra Gadkar, Subba Rao, way before that. But you see the literature, time and again, referring to Krishna Iyer has created triple test, this test. And this is not confined to only that parameter, friends. There are several concepts regarding basic issues. And I want to show you authenticity of data. Yes, just open that. Can you come and just, yeah. There is a document available. I'll show the document. We have conducted some empirical research on so regulation. Somewhere 20% plagiarism is allowed, 30% is allowed, etc. But friends, even 1% plagiarism is not allowed. Academic dishonesty, 1% is not allowed. Right? So there is a confusion regarding similarity index. Of course, similarity index up to some extent is allowed. Fine. If you read regulation, 2018 is available. So what is expected from the researcher? We expect the researcher to contribute substantially to the research assignment. Right? Maybe 20% literature, 60% analysis. Not that 80% literature and then maybe 5% analysis. That is not required. So researcher is required to contribute substantially. Now see this question. Do you think the commission, fine, deals with conflict of interest in publication of law journals? Now see the response. 39% of 146. Say yes. 36% no. And 24.7% no idea. Isn't the problem with the data? With the research at the first place? You must know the nature and scope of this regulation, right? And friends, this regulation does not talk about conflict of interest in publication of law journal. But if you go by the respondents, right? Yeah, 39% says yes, it deals with conflict of interest. Right? So what is the reflection of the data? Are you going to quote the data without knowing the data? See, conducting empirical research means you must know the accuracy, the subject matter. You can get incorrect answer also. If that is the case, are you going to replicate that incorrect answer in your final report? Certainly not. So this is again very scientific. You must know the source. You must know the relevant literature that is very pertinent. Right? If you are going to quote this perception-based data, it is based on perception. But the data, the perception is required to be verified. Right? Because this question was meant for everybody. So we have collected this the information from teachers, law teachers, students, editors, etc. Right? We collected that information on the basis of 6 parameters. Editors publishing the papers in the same journal, advisory members publishing the papers in the same journal, then again reviewers publishing the papers. See, there are I think 6 to 7 parameters. And these 7 parameters are related to conflict of interest. Fine. Yeah, this is the research that has been conducted, and I am working on one particular research paper on conflict of interest, that is academic integrity in publication of law journal. I think research is very, very important. You are likely to be misled by the data in case you don't know the legal position. In this particular case, you don't know. Right? I am aware of that position that, yeah, there is no judicial regulation regulating conflict of interest. Right? Okay, now, what is the distinction between similarity index and plagiarism? Anybody? This very popular term, similarity index, plagiarism, terminating software, anti-plagiarism software. Any idea about that? Let me see. Because that is also related to that systematic approach. What are they? Yeah. Any difference between similarity index and plagiarism? Plagiarism and similarity index. Have you examined all these issues, policies, very important dimensions of accountability of academic dishonesty or academic theft? I call it academic dishonesty.
Shows the originality of the research.
Okay. Similarity index and plagiarism. Is there any connection? I'll show you. Can you just show me that? Yeah, minimize that. This article. Fine. 23% is acceptable, right? Okay, just one more. The last one. Fine. Right. Go to the. Fine. Right. So, what is the understanding of this? Internal data or the data that is available in the data bank of that software. Now, according to this article, 16%, right? It means this article has used 16% of the data available in the data bank of that software. We use terminating software for that purpose, right? Internet 14%, etc. If you go by the percentage, do you think this percentage guaranteed you some kind of authenticity that your paper is acceptable in case it has low similarity index? See, the paper was rejected, right? See, this is the first condition where you have to have substantial contribution from the author, number one. Number two, we go by the second quality, substantive contribution. This paper was evaluated by expert committee, 2 experts rejected. So this low similarity index is not a guarantee of publication, right? Next, let me see the next component. Yeah, just you can close this article only. Yeah, then let us see the next one, next article. PDF document. You already opened that. Yeah, see 23%, right? 23% is okay. Now see that, can you go to this page? Let's see, yeah. Go down. So that is the real problem of quality research in our country. We believe in shortcuts. Paper publish करना है, because promotion लेना है, right? We have to get appointed also because there are some requirements. We don't believe in shortcuts because that is the real requirement. Fine. So any question regarding similarity index and plagiarism? I hope this is very clear. Okay. Yeah, please. Next. Let us see the scheme because research is scientific and systematic. I'll show the scheme and yeah. Why do we conduct research? The next question is how do we conduct research? That is third question. Why do we conduct research? Anybody? So why do we conduct research? Anybody? Let me see. Why do we conduct research? Do we conduct research for getting good grades, grade marks, like you do that presentation part, right? 1 year learn, huh? Fast food degree. Isn't it? Fast food degree 1 year, no time. Huh? Basically it is 9 months degree, not 1 year. 4 plus 4. Right. So why do we do research? Let me see. Why do we do research? Yes, sir. Again, from the perspective of quality research, not for getting PhD or promotion or maybe appointment or otherwise, right? Or getting good grade. From the perspective of quality research, why do we do research? Do research. Next please. Yeah, wonderful. We'll discuss this. Yeah, it is a serious problem. You know what is research question, but you are not in a position to formulate research question. You come out with some specific research question like what is the definition of dowry debt, what is the definition of agreement, what is the definition of artificial intelligence, or what is the definition of cryptocurrency. Is it so? What is the meaning of blockchain? Isn't it? So if that is the case, I think you have some problem. Right? Research question. So this is very important, that knowledge is power. But you must be in a position to apply that power. If you know the concept, but you are not in a position to apply that. This is a reflection of that. Right? What a manometer H2O 50 meter. So that is, I think, the real challenge before us. We have to really introspect that. Yeah, next please. Yeah, this is, I think, the learning pyramid, right? See, we start with remembering. You remember section, understand section, apply it, analyze it, evaluate and create it. Because of positive time, we won't be in a position to really examine all the parameters, but try to practice for good quality research. Remember, understand, apply, analyze, create. Right? This is also related to rationale for conducting any research. Next please. I think you know that classification research, descriptive research, explanatory research, exploratory research. In case of descriptive research, we describe with some analysis. That is mostly prevalent in our country. We summarize, describe literature, judgments, and foreign country. We are very fond of comparing other countries also. That is the real problem. Fine. Now, yeah, exploratory research. Then before that, explanatory. You explain the causal connection between independent variable and dependent variable, like smoking causes cancer, right? So that is a kind of that relationship that is examining between two variables. Exploratory research, where lesser known area is a research, right? You don't know details of application of artificial intelligence in case of judgment delivery system, right? So you can explore that, you can apply that. Next please. I think systematic approach. Yeah, fine. Or research issue. You start with some research question, research problem, or research gap. This is possible only after in-depth analysis, examination of literature with integrated approach. If you want to work on labor law, then try to relate it to other subjects also. Company law, CPC, IPR, in case that matter is related to other disciplines, other subjects. Fine. This is very important from that perspective. So number one is identification of issues, research questions, such problem. Number two, analysis. Specific analysis as to how and why the research issue has created problems. Like, you see, we always talk about speed and economical justice, isn't it? If you are asked to examine the scope of speed and economical justice from the perspective of consumer commission, suppose you are not to the topic, where the consumer commission in India, maybe district commission, right, has promoted speedy and economical justice, what would your approach? Suppose you are selected this area, right? How are you going to examine that research? Speedy and economical justice. What is speedy justice? What is economical justice? Then you are required to examine speedy justice, time-bound delivery, economic justice, right? You know, advocates charging huge fee. That is the real again problem. So you have to examine the specific concept. You know what is hierarchy method case analysis? HIRAC. Have you heard of this HIRAC? See, I don't expect you to examine 500 pages, 300 pages, 200 pages, 100 pages. This is regarding judgment analysis. But if you follow this particular technique, you will be in a position to examine any judgment without duplicating the principles regulated by the judgment. You know what is HIRAC? Okay, I will explain it to you. H stands for history, factual matrix. Whenever you examine any judgment, examine factual matrix. Because factual matrix or facts are the basis of issues, disputes between the parties. Right? That A met with an accident with B, there was injuring C, etc., like that factual matrix. Then you determine liability, that is the issue. H stands for history or factual matrix, E stands for disputes or issues determined by the court. Then R, right? R means rule position, rule applicable to the dispute or to that issue. Application, whether the court has applied relevant law to relevant facts in drawing the conclusion. A means application, C means conclusion. So this is, I think, very important in case of quality research. Fine. Analysis, then thereafter see, the moment you identify this, then proper analysis, in-depth analysis, requiring substantial contribution by the researcher, not repetition. Then finding and recommendations. See friends, we are very fond of borrowing things from here and there. See, this is being practiced in UK, so India should also practice. I've seen some recommendations here and there. Right, like Law Commission report, death penalty has been abolished in 147 countries, 142 countries, so India should also abolish that. Is it logical conclusion? Is it appropriate, I think, finding? Right, so number one, you must come out with appropriate finding and provide proper justification for findings. Right, number two, recommendations, direct recommendations, like when it comes to speed in economical justice, then you must come out with some recommendation in order to provide that convenient process, to get rid of technicalities of procedure, provide free services, right, time-bound delivery, etc., in case of consumer protection law. So this is, I think, this is the way you are expected to examine various parameters of a research. Number one, identification. Number two, analysis. Number three, conclusion. So the third part is very important, where you contribute to the existing pool of knowledge. Your findings, your recommendations must contribute to the existing pool of knowledge. That is, I think, the requirement. Otherwise, repetition will not serve the purpose. Okay, coming back to the final question. And final question is, why do we do research? Again, three principles. Next, please. I think time we should not discuss. Right. Why do we research? Three principles. Number one, we do research to question existing rules, existing regulations, existing law or existing principles. Like I am questioning this 1 year LLM. The 1 year LLM is of no use because people don't get time to do research. There is no specialization also, a kind of mixed match degree. Criminal law along with that constitution law, right? Otherwise, you are supposed to have LLM is supposed to be a specialized degree, like IPR 1, business law 1, labor law 1, criminal law 1, right? But you see the course curriculums, I have examined course curriculums of all law universities. New theory, right? New rule, right? And it leads to policy changes. It leads to creation of new policy. Right, see, I tell you in case of 2017, we did conduct empirical research in Delhi area. It was related to legal aid councils. Right, we made recommendations in 2017 that legal aid councils should be engaged on full-time basis. Now the policy has been accepted by the government. Now you have 22, the policy, NALSA policy 2022. Right, legal aid councils are engaged on tenure basis. In case of criminal matters, right, and they have created a specific system. So if you, very important that teachers teaching procedure law should go for internship. Again, learning, I am talking about clinical legal education is the key, because we don't really promote clinical legal education. Practicing law is important, theory of course is important. Right, so let us, this is the way how that research methodology can be practiced by all of us. Fine, now yeah, let us see the scheme. I think almost. Fine, I think next please. Fine, we can. I see the scheme. Last scheme. Yeah. Wait, next. It's a parallel. Yes. Now see this, friends. This is the scheme which is supposed to be followed by all of us, with no exception. Right? Now see, and this is based on scientific justification. If I say that review literature is a starting point, it means you can't identify research problem without knowing the subject matter. Right? You can't know about subject matter without reading it. So therefore, review literature is important in any case. You have to really examine that. So kindly try to follow this when you write research paper, when you draft some research proposal, right? Or you do any research. Fine? Now see that problem, right? Research question, research design, data, analysis, interpretation and findings. And this is my feeling as a student of research methodology, right? So, any questions, friends? Because of time constraint, I wanted to discuss that internet, artificial intelligence component. but time constraint, could not discuss it. Maybe next time we can discuss this artificial intelligence component. Artificial intelligence, that use of artificial intelligence in data collection, use of artificial intelligence in translation, use of artificial intelligence in case of that anti-plagiarism software, right? Our use of artificial intelligence in order to verify authenticity of data, right? So I have focused on several parameters, but because of time constraints, so basically I have examined human intervention, human intelligence which is artificial intelligence in case of promotion of good quality research, right? So you can just find out that artificial intelligence which is human intelligence and quality legal research. Fine. So any question, any clarification, any criticism, most welcome, friends.
There should be a wording for the research papers or the articles, etc. Because I feel it confines it to the word and limits the publications of a quality.
Okay, right. See, word limit. There is justification.